Welcome to Bespoke Diaries. Today's article is on Education Doesn't Occur Only in Educational Institutions, by Aaqib Shaheen, author, India. The education and educational process is not limited to educational institutions only, but rather it is a comprehensive process in which all social spectrums and all individuals participate. Parents bear the responsibility first, then the family, then society, and so the responsibility grows and expands to include the media and social networks, as well as religious centers and those in charge of them. It is true, and each carries his responsibility according to his human and social representation, and it is true that this process in most of its forms is random, unorganized and not systematic. But it greatly contributes to the creation of the person's personality and in some ways, and this is what prompts us to search for the reason behind the lack of success required. There is no doubt that mankind seeks every period to develop its domains in which it lives and deals with it in every aspect of its life. There is no doubt that the key to this development is learning and education, which depends entirely on the teacher who performs this not easy task. We do not doubt that those in charge in this field are aware of what the educational process needs in terms of drawing goals, objectives and strategies, developing tools and mechanisms, adopting the necessary skills and performance, and at the same time when they see the results and outputs, they also realize that there is something missing in between, which has produced unexpected fruits. And this deficiency appears neither an easy nor a simple matter, as it appears that it is a deficiency whose results appear in the late stages of one's entry into the arena of life and into the career arena. In fact, family and social life in its various forms is not excluded. Yes. Is not the emergence of corruption in departments and institutions a clear indication of a deficiency in the educational process? Is not the mortal corruption that may appear in the dealings of the two sexes in some parts of life confirms that the educational process is not integrated or incorrect? That stands behind the lack of success required. Focusing on the scientific aspect, whether theoretical or applied, is insufficient in finding and creating the appropriate climate for successful outcomes, so there is what we need to know and accurately, and science is to provide it properly in every educational process. To close the requirement and accurately, Aaqib says that the educational process is like jigsaw puzzle games where every shape is properly placed and in harmony with it 100%, and education and educational institutions deal with a group of things, for example, but not limited to. If we understand this requirement well, we will move on to knowing the real gap that exists between human beings, which constitutes the main obstacle to completing the educational process successfully and correctly. There is a true amount of information, techniques, tools and skills, but what is lacking is its conformity with the self-needs of the human being. From the soul, the mind, the soul and the body, are they identical? In what proportion, and why? And what is missing in order for it to be identical? And perhaps the matter will become more complicated as we know about the formation of each of the beings, the mind, the soul, and the body as one unit, and as a single team in this life, and it is necessary that the need at that time be for a unified food that nourishes the mind in the eye of its nourishment for the soul and body, in a moderate, without excess or neglect, and this is what we say that the conformity is 100%, so what is the privilege, what is the participation, so, has humanity reached this level? From an accurate science matching the needs of all things and beings around? It is, therefore, necessary for education and educational institutions and those in them to realize this fact, and it is true that most of the workers in this most important and dangerous sector are not aware of this demand, but the interest of many of them is position, prestige, money and getting a job that covers his daily expenses and suffices, and to help him get married and build a family, as for the fact that it becomes his preoccupation as it carries him the responsibility of building man and making his personality to be a constructive worker in the homeland as required by the subjective needs of the moral nature. This is what most institutions of this kind in the world lack. Humanity is still in the process of research in traditional circles, even if it is mastered at the level of techniques and formalities. The mere formal development is not sufficient to know an exact match, and this means that humanity is still in the stage of providing first aid to treat its sufferings at the level of education and on the level of education, but to go deeper to the level of radical treatment, so the proverb, "He who loses something does not give it." If we understand this stage correctly, then the stage of searching for suitable food corresponding to the self-need of the one group will follow the mind, soul, and body, so that it becomes a kind of special privilege and achieves the common desire of all in a just and moderate manner, without excess or neglect. This article is an invitation to all scientific and educational institutions and centers concerned with human development with the necessity of restoring knowledge structures based on the self-need on which organisms are ever raised. One of the most important characteristics of this self-need is that it has an objective and equitable nature, so no one can enter it to change its destination, or influence it, and this means that it cannot be influenced by changing its destination, characteristic, and privilege to twist it according to its mood, party, organization, destination, orientations and desires, so it is immune from this side, and a very high quality product on the other hand. Let us come out with a useful result and say: the nature on which man and beings were created, and the moral formation upon which man and creatures were designed is what determines the quality of food for everything that falls in the circle and surroundings of man's life. From here we can determine the education and educational food that is suitable for both the mind, the body, and the soul, by meeting and joining them as one team, without anything being at the expense of the other. Thank you for your time. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Do leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For similar type of article please reach us at contact@thebespokediaries.com, or you can visit our website www.thebespokediaries.com.